Hey, good morning. We're just going to give folks a second to go ahead and log on, but we're here getting ready for live with, God, your name is so hard.
Well,
Kosha Irby.
crochet is hard.
I know how to say your name. You must get like Kosha, or you get probably Kosha
I
more
get
than.
kosher. I get kosher a lot, and just recently I got queso, which threw me for a loop. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
that's cheese,
whatever you get there.
that's not the same.
Yeah, yeah, it threw me off. I was like, oh, you just kind of get immune. So you're like, all right, man, yeah, you're right. What do you need?
I know, right? Yeah. Well, it's Kosha, and we're super happy to have you. I think we've done a couple, three webinars with you now. And I actually asked Taylor, I said, what are we talking about besides what we just did on the sound check? We always have a good time on the sound check, and then we have to actually give people some good content this morning. But um, Koshe was a client of TicketForce for a number of years, and until you made a career move. So I just want to introduce you, give a little bit of your bio, and then you guys are going to love everything that he has to say. So you are currently working as a live entertainment marketing and event management consultant. And boy, anybody's lucky to have you working with them. Most recently, you were team president of the Memphis Express. So there we are to Memphis and the food and all that stuff from our role. And you did pretty much everything, all the operations for that team. Um,
Yeah.
and then prior to that, we knew you as live event marketing and sales when you were with WWE, and we did the ticketing and still do for the NXT branch of that. When you were there, I know that you identified markets, you drove revenue, you increased brand awareness, all that great live entertainment stuff that you did for that sports entertainment worldwide. It is worldwide wrestling, so you
Yeah,
guys went
that is.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Before that, senior director or senior associate director of athletics at Georgia State. I saw Georgia and went to Atlanta. Um, and you did marketing and sales there. You launched their D1 football program, and the inaugural season was phenomenal. Got a bunch of awards, special recognition, all that kind of stuff, because you were there to help create that program. You before that, we're just going backwards. You were at St. Louis University. You're kind of in the athletic world your whole life, right? You were associate director of athletics there, and also sales and marketing. So you get this really unique combo of being an athlete yourself, and then also the sales and marketing side of things that you're just phenomenal at. So you did attend the University of Memphis, bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science, and MBA in marketing in '01. So did I get it? That
You
about
got
it?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that
but
sums it up for me at least.
I mean, your proudest accomplishment is probably the little girl that you just brought in and sat on your lap for a second,
Yeah, Lexi is. Yeah, she's number one. That's the best thing I think I've ever contributed to the world.
right? And then
Hands down.
it's a head scratcher. It's a lot harder to figure kids out than it is marketing or sales or any of that.
I 100% agree. I joke all the time that I've negotiated $1 million deals, but I can't get my kid to eat our oatmeal, right? And that just cracks me up.
It's true.
It's
It
like,
is so true.
uh, so hey, who goes? Hey, I'm still learning and trying to figure it out, but it's fun. I have none of the answers, but I'm always going to try to seek the right methods to make sure that she has everything that she needs.
Yep. Yep. And that's what it's all about. Well, we want to focus on a few different topics today, around building audiences, building future audiences, how live event experiences are changing, and how we can make some adjustments that we need to. So I remember when you were at WWE, you were like, we are obviously an entertainment organization, more than a sports. And you also told me you were basically producing TV, through those events there. But yet there was that live aspect to it. They don't just put the wrestling in a room and film it. So there's a reason that something special happens around the live event. But the experience of WWE is unique and truly built around being there, right? People can watch it on TV, but there's something really unique about being there. So, from your experience, how do we need, if we're talking to live event people here, and our client base, most of the folks that watch this, we've got everything from concerts and theaters, we've got big sporting events, races, rodeos, fairs, all that kind of stuff. But how do we need to be adapting our events that we have now to really enhance the fan experience?
Well, I would start off by saying, people always try to compare TV to the live experience, and they say that TV is king. And if TV is king, I believe the live event is still the emperor, right? It is still the foundation of everything that we do.
I love it.
So I think that a lot of people lose sight of that. They still forget that you are broadcasting from that live event, and so you need to own that and have respect for that, and not say, oh, we're just doing this for TV. And I think that's one of the things that WWE did very well. Vince and everybody that works for Vince understands that the lifeblood of the organization is the live event business. That is it. Without that live event business, that creates the studio environment for the TV broadcast, that creates the merchandise, that creates that unique touch point, there is no WWE. There is no network. There is no billion-dollar publicly traded company that you have today. So I think that is critical for people to understand. And I don't care if you're doing a touring business, if you're doing a venue business, if you're doing a fair or rodeo, whatever, you have to understand that you're still the foundation of whatever it is that you're going to extend off of that, right? So that's key. But I think the number one thing that people need to do for the experience is, I guess, is a question is to truly start to pay attention to trends that don't necessarily correlate directly with the live event experience, right? People always want to keep focusing on ticketing and concessions and foods and seat width and ingress, egress, and all those things matter. But I think that the consumer of tomorrow, or in some cases, the consumer of today, are focused on different things, and you need to see 2 or 3 steps down the line. And like the example I've been giving to a lot of clients are you prepared for 5G? And a lot of people say, one, what is 5G? Because I don't know what that is. But
Right.
If you're not prepared for 5G, which is going to basically take Wi-Fi and throw it by the wayside and allow for your mobile device to be more robust, just as fast as your home PC, but in a mobile concept. So that means that you need to make sure that your venue, your event is equipped for that. Are you utilizing all the platforms that are going to be available to you? Some that haven't even been developed yet. But you got to make sure that your mindset is set up for that. And that would be the first thing that I would tell people when we start talking about, the live event experience and what can we do and what's on the forefront, is look at what's coming down the pipe. And that is going to be the next thing, because technology and events, as much as we hate it as a live event, people always think the phone is the enemy. Unfortunately, the phone is now going to become that conduit between your event and that person. And so if you're not harnessing that, you're already falling behind. So I think that is kind of the mindset that I'm trying to get anybody that I'm talking to understand. And that's kind of one of those critical examples that I'm trying to use to get people to understand where we're going versus the old truth. Oh yeah, we're gonna go and renovate this and turn this into a couch versus 4 bucket seats. And I get that, but that is so last year, and that's going to be a thing of the past. People are not coming anymore for this great seated opportunity. They're coming for this immersive opportunity. And so seated versus immersive is a critical difference in what we as promoters or content creators are doing today.
Yeah, it's really true. And it's like there's 2 camps, when you have these conversations, and there's the folks that are like, put the phones away, and everybody's just looking at their phone. And like, it's sort of like when they used to, way back in the beginning of social media, they would say, oh, should we be using social media or should we not? Is it going to be a tool that's going to be around? And it was like, by the time people were done having that conversation, the song had already sung, obviously this is a tool we should be using, and I can remember, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe, doing seminars at various conferences about social media and trying to tell people how to use it. And I would still be getting the questions about, well, but the old people don't use it. And do I really, and it's like, And it's a little bit that same way with what you were saying. We're still talking about seats and all that kind of stuff. And, instead of investing in some of the infrastructure and being ready for 5G and high tech and all of that.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it. These are free investments, more than likely, right? Verizon,
Right.
AT&T are going to give it to you.
Now they love it.
Like, everybody's right, and that's where, it's like when you're coasting down hills, take advantage of the free speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't. I think a lot of people, when you start talking about upgrading the fan experience, automatically think that it's going to be this gargantuan investment. And don't get me wrong, it is, because your building needs to be up to date and everything. You need to try to keep up with the Joneses to your best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are a lot of just technology. I always tell people you can't build a building faster than the technology evolves. You just can't, right?
Right.
You can't build a building to keep up with technology. But you need to take advantage of that technology. And so all these evergreen buildings that are coming around now are doing just that. And so, I keep looking at 5G because it's like the big pie in the sky. That's the next big evolution. That's the next big tech boom, from the mobile phone to this now, because it's just going to happen faster. And people can now adapt apps and things to do a lot of things that they normally couldn't do just 2 years ago. I remember when you used to go into a building and, like, as a promoter, we would go into these venues and we will all get on our phones and, we'll be lightning speed because, you kind of got a building that's built for Wi-Fi, but you'll get on these lightning speeds and everything will go well. And as soon as you open the doors and everybody starts to file in, it goes to a crawl. And
Yep.
So, and everybody was trying to keep up with the Joneses and saying, okay, we're going to have this Wi-Fi ability, or we're going to put on cows, which is sales on wheels, or coats, which is sales on lightning towers and all that stuff. Or lighting towers, not lightning towers, because that could be dangerous.
Lighting, yeah.
But I think that now we are getting this technology given to us, and so we just got to make sure that we take advantage of it. So for me, I think the fan experience is going to come. The evolution of the fan experience, for my take, is going to be the immersion of technology with the current traditional product, and then trying to take that technology and turn your core offering into something that the person just can't replicate at home. And that, at the end of the day, is what we're doing.
Yeah, and people you mentioned TV, which, I had down to talk about, because I hear that, I think, too much. People who stay home, they can watch these immersive events on TV. But if that were true and there was no magic, like you called the live event the emperor, if TV is king, live events the emperor, you should probably trademark that. If you have, that's good. I like that. But I mean, otherwise, Feld Entertainment would just go build all these shows down in Florida like they do, and just film them in their big building. And why pack them up in a truck and take them all across the country? Same thing with WWE. Just put a big wrestling match in one spot and film it. But you guys take it all over the country, all of it, Broadway,
right.
Every last bit of it. So, I mean, what is that magic that we sometimes hear promoters and building folks forget? When they're saying, hey, people are just staying home, this next generation's never going to go outdoors. I know what that is, but describe how you talk to people about that.
Well, I think that the next generation of fans, there's two things that I always try to tell people when I'm talking to them. Is one, the thing that we as promoters have to be able to do when working with our building partners, or you're working with your local partners or whatever, is, I think now more than ever, we got to reduce the barriers of entry. As a new father in the last 2 years, one of the things that I tell a lot of people is the main reason I don't want to go to an event is because an event sometimes is too long, too loud, or my kid can't have their own seat, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of people that are going through that. Now, I know that, the baby boom is not necessarily as booming as it was, but a lot of people have the young affluent people that are most likely to go out, that have kids, are going to stay home. And then the second thing that a lot of people are doing, baseball kind of started to take advantage of this. Pets. People love their dogs and their cats and their parakeets, and the airplanes finally got to, understood this. Airplanes finally understood this, and they started letting service animals come on. And I don't want to get into that debate, but I think that people need to start figuring out ways to allow for pets to come in. When I was doing our football team, one of the things that we were exploring is selling a season ticket to a dog. We were going to have a season ticket dedicated for a dog. We were going to sell for $25. You can bring your dog. The dog can sit in the bleacher section right beside you. We had a whole area mapped out. But what I was getting at is figure out ways to eliminate these barriers of interest, because you have people that, I don't want to leave the dog for 4 or 5 hours. I don't have a dog sitter, or I don't have a babysitter.
That is so
And I know
true.
that these are common sense things, but you'll be amazed at how uncommon these common sense things are right now. And so, figure out ways to invite pets. And I know a lot of people have like theater venues, and like, we can have a dog in our belt seats, or we can't bring a dog in. Figure out a way.
Yeah.
And because if you start to look at, once again, the propensity of people, you got to look at the demo of people. Animal lovers, true. And I could probably say this about a lot of different things, but animal lovers, specifically those with like athletic animals, dogs, and those type of things, are the people that go out the most.
That's
right?
true.
So
Yeah.
if you figure out a way to attract them and take that barrier of entry away, I think it is going to increase that. I always tell our clients that I'm talking to now is you got to figure out a way to make your front porch bigger. And the ways that you make your front porch bigger is by, one, reducing the barriers of entry. For me right now, the two examples that I'm giving you are going to be, kids and dogs. And then two, and it goes back to our original talk about technology, is figuring out a ways to harness, i.e., 5G technology that's coming down the pipeline, so that when people come in, I can still use my mobile device to do something really cool, or I can, hang with a little Fido or Astro, whatever your dog or cat's name is, or my kid kind of has a section, and here's where I think buildings tried, because I remember there was a big boom of building like these playgrounds in the concourse, and I was like, that kind of defeats the purpose, because they're in the concourse, meaning they can't watch the event. So let's figure out a way to replicate the living room in these environments in such a way that they can bring a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old that we know is going to have some type of attention span issue, but yet still figure out a way to allow for a dog and all those things that come along. So that's going to be one of those things that people are going to have to try to figure out here shortly.
Well, and it's true. If you're at home right now, you've got your kid with you, you've got your dog with you, you've got your phone and your device. Oh, I hear your baby.
Yeah.
Life is real, man. I'm just waiting for my dogs to start barking when the landscaper shows up. So, but you've got all those comfort things. If you want food, you're ordering it from Uber Eats or whatever, right? And then if you're going to take people out of that environment, and then all of a sudden we're going to put them in this sort of sterile place, right? Say, hey, we're going to make it real fun for you. We're going to tell you to put your phone down because we want you to watch the show. You got to leave your dog at home. You got to leave your kid at home. All of a sudden you're making this terribly uncomfortable for them, right?
Right.
And why are they going to come flocking to see? And so you've got to, it's make the front porch bigger I love it. These are Kosha-isms, So I'm taking notes.
But it's such the truth, right? Because you really think about why people like the thing that I, as a marketer right now, one of the things that I try to do when I'm looking at any project, the first thing I ask myself is, why would this person say no? And it used to be, and then you have to ask yourself, okay, why would this person say no, and what can I control? I remember the old statement of, we want to control the driveway to driveway. And I can't control traffic patterns. I can't control the on-ramp or off-ramp. I can't. But I can control the environment once they get there, right? And so those are the things that you have to do. And then, I then try to tell our clients, because the clients I'm dealing with are not going to be these multi-billion-dollar corporations that can just say, hey, build a new building, or let's just tear down an entire concourse and rebuild something. So I have to also try to find frugal ways to do this. And those are the things that I'm always trying to advise them on is, hey, take advantage of the free stuff. And if you can do that, you're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And create, like I said, create that unique environment.
Well, we go to a ton of breweries. We love craft beer, and there's kids all over the place. And raising my kids in a different generation, we raised them we just took them to McDonald's and let them play in the ball pit, or if we wanted to go to a bar, we got a babysitter. But that's not true anymore. The kids are everywhere.
Right.
And sometimes for my husband, he's like, man, I'm at a bar and there's like little kids, everywhere. But and dogs, those two things you nailed, and it's like, people love going to those kind of places where they can have that same feeling they do when they're at home, but they're out getting a beer that you can't get at home, or having an experience you
Right.
can't get at home. And so that's spot on. And rather than fight that, I think a lot of folks want to fight that and go, well, we don't want
Yeah.
kids in here, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I was at an airport and there's a dog, relief area that had fake grass and a little fence around it. So I can't remember who that
Right.
was. Yeah, but I think it was Charlotte, but they got it, right? They were like, look, there's so many folks now that are traveling with their pets that we're going to give you a little indoor doggy relief area. True
In a
thing.
rocking chair. In a
Oh, there's
rocking chair
rocking
in
chairs
Charlotte.
all over. Yeah, yeah. Charlotte is
Right.
it. Charlotte and Philly.
Right.
um,
So I mean, but just embrace the change. It's happening, And I think that you try to fight it so much, and it's just a waste of your time. It's like kids. I tell people, the three things that used to kill a live event. Period. Kids, and I hate to say this out loud, but kids, dogs, and phones. Old school promoters hated them. Hated them.
mhm.
Right. Don't
Yeah.
record it and give away our magic. Kids can't
Right.
come because we want to have a upscale event, and you can't bring
Mhm.
dogs. But figure out a way to solve that. Allow for phones, allow for kids, and allow for dogs. I think that once again, if it's family entertainment, I mean, like, you can't necessarily do this at certain,
Right.
but
Right.
if your genre allows for it, take advantage of it, or identify what that barrier is for you, because everybody on the phone has unique, different things and different scenarios. But if you can allow for that, man, I think that it opens up that decision-making process to more yeses than nos, which is at the end of the day, all we can ask for.
So, I had the question on there because I attended a good number of sporting events, and particularly right now in baseball, unless I'm at Wrigley Field, there's a lot of empty seats, and I'm sitting there like, people only go when you're winning. I mean, I'm not going to call out any particular teams, but I've been to a number of stadiums this summer, and they're not full. So, I mean, should we be filling them up with kids and dogs, or, is that a
Right.
barrier problem,
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, and baseball is a tough sport. Like I work with some baseball people now, and I have a new appreciation for that, because when you start
Mhm.
talking about 80 to 100 games, that's a third of the year. When you when you start doing the math on this, you're like, wait a minute,
Right.
that's a lot of, at least in the NBA, you kind of got 40 here, maybe 60 if you make it all the way through with preseasons and all that type of stuff. NFL focuses on 8 to 10 to 12, depending on how you play it out each year.
Yeah.
So so baseball, I got an appreciation for it. But the flip side of that, and what baseball was the king of for a while, was the promotions. They always had the gimmick, get a beanie, get this, get that. But that's starting to wear off now. And what I see in baseball teams are starting to do a great job of, they're starting to create virtual worlds. And I think that is the thing that, because you're going to have this person up for 3-4 hours. Baseball is a long game. And so how do you get those people there? And I'll tell people all the time, like, different products that I'm on the lookout for. Augmented reality right now is a new thing. And there's numerous free opportunities, not free, but very cheap or limited or minimum investment opportunities out there. Apple has a developer called, oh God, it's escaping my brain right now. I think it's ARKit, ARKIT, ARKit 3, ARKit 2, ARKit 3. I think it's ARKit 3.
Okay.
But ARKit 3 is a developer that's going to revolutionize what augmented reality is through your Apple device or other phones as they kind of come along. But basically, what it allows for you to do, and I think they were testing some of this with some baseball teams, but what they're doing, and this is where I'm kind of going into trying to create a new experience. And harnessing, once again, this 5G technology, but you get a group like ARKit, put that app on your phone, and then when you kind of watching a baseball game, football game, it allows for them to put different nodes around the field, where if they hold up their phone and look through their lens through at the game, it paints a totally different environment than the naked eye. And so you start to look at that type of stuff, and once again, I think that you harness the new technology and just just forget it, man. Phones are in right now, so we got to figure out a way to use them to our advantage, as opposed to making phone this evil device that when you bring it in, you got to put it up. It's like, well, if I got to put my phone up, I'm not coming. So once again, our mission, and the mission that I try to go in with any client that I'm talking to, is says, I'm not here to try to help you create all this revenue right now. My main goal for the first 2 to 3 meetings to figure out how can we break down all the barriers, because I can come up with all the ideas, the pie in the sky ideas to help you make money, but if your barriers are still there, it's a moot point. And so that is the thing that I try to impart on anybody is figure out those barriers to entry, and then we'll start to ride the technology waves. But our Kit 3 is a company that if you're looking for some really cool stuff, they're on to something.
Yeah, and man, you're always like a step ahead of everybody else I talk to. Like I can guarantee I'm going to talk to you, and you're gonna have some idea that no one else is talking about. It's awesome. I love that. And
But yeah, I mean,
people get caught up in the generational thing too. And I think folks still think that millennials are teenagers. Because they've been talking about, and it's like, they're almost 40 now. And
yeah.
so they are that right in that sweet spot of being the people that are able and starting to earn the money so that they can go out and go to live events. And, how are they different? Because you got that shift right around age 40, a little bit under. So how is the 40 plus crowd, if that's your demo, how is the under 40 crowd different? Because they're not teenagers anymore. I feel like people still talk about them like, oh, they're just going to be on their phones. Oh, no, they got the kids and the dogs, and they're working and they're making money. But how are they different than the 40 plus? Some of the stuff you've already been saying, maybe, but.
I don't think they're different, though, in the grand scheme of things. At the end of the day, people still want to be entertained. I think the difference between the millennial now versus what's Gen Z, I think the millennial, well, you have Gen X, the millennial, and Gen Z. Right. And to me, I argue that is one big blur these days, because I think that the millennial is adopting things from Gen X, and they're also adopting things from Gen Z. So that millennial still has a propensity to go out, but the difference with the millennial is they're still socially adapt. They still go out and have the conversation. They still like the communal space. They still kind of go out, but they also understand how to use technology in a way that Gen X kind of doesn't, but not as fast as Gen Z adopts it. So I would argue that the millennial right now is the easiest demographic to kind of market to, because they have a distinct pattern, and and they're going to be the test case to do it. Everybody talks about the coveted 18 to 36 demo. Everybody wants. And I would argue now that the coveted demo is going to shift to like 25, 49 here pretty soon, because those are going to be the ones that are going to be able to act on a lot of different things based off of once again, you hit it on the head, the propensity to have discretionary income. Baby boomers are literally starting to kind of, get a little too old. And Gen Zers, just looking at that demographic, and I look at my little cousins right now, they aren't going to have any money for a while. So for them, the whole idea of work right now is a foreign concept. So, but that's not to say that they're not worth your time, because I would argue that, and this is the one thing that Vince made a genius move in, is he started to count revenue, engagement as revenue, and everybody was like, but that's not real money. Like, yes, it is.
Can't put that on
engagement.
My book.
You can't put that on the books. It doesn't feed me. And Vince was steadfast in saying that, hey, every engagement we have is future money down the line. We need to make sure and that's why he went on a rampage in social media. Why they got over 1 billion followers now is because of that. But that 1 billion followers has now translated into the network, has now translated into one of the most profitable YouTube channels on the internet. And he started that a long time ago. So I still think that you still have to engage with Gen Z, but I now believe that millennials are that core financial investment. That's who I am marketing to, and that's who I try to get a lot of our, I talk to these smaller schools. They're trying to still go after the donor base, and they're still trying to go after that 60 plus crowd that are trying to make these legacy gifts. So it's like, you need to change your demographic, because once again, your season ticket base is just getting older. Your ticket base is getting older. Your demo now is getting older, and so I think the millennial is going to be the most coveted, probably coveted demo here for at least the next decade. For the points that I just made, they're going to have discretionary income. It's a big deal. It is a big cohort of the world right now, and they understand both. Once again, they take on tendencies from Gen X to where they're working, they're trying to establish things, but they take on tendencies from Gen Z from the fact that they're going to be technically adept. They're not going to be offended if a phone's in their face, if a person is behind them. So you got to harness that with every event that you have and take advantage of that. Otherwise, I think you're going to miss this next wave. And then if you're not even trying to keep up with that demo, you're going to definitely miss the wave of Gen Z when they become your dominant customer here in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, and they influence. Like, I'm the parent of 3 millennials, and I use technology a lot more like they do than people who aren't. And they definitely influence. Like, my daughter introduced me to Twitter, when it first was out, and as you know, I'm on there all the time, probably more than she
You
is.
go ham on Twitter. You go ham on Twitter. I sometimes look and I was like, yep, that she. I will say this: if you guys, whoever listens to this, and wanted to see her passionate side, check her Twitter account.
Yeah, there you
She lets
go.
you know what you feel.
Yeah, you're calling me out now. But I mean, the kids, the millennials have influenced, my generation as well. And so you're right. When you
Right.
target them, it's going to spill, to both sides of the generations around them. And what I've heard about Gen Z, which are barely graduating high school, I think the Parkland kids in Florida sadly sort of introduced us to Gen Z. Because they were kind of the first ones, and they came out as being, activists more, kind of standing up for what they believe, but also, sadly, they're fearful with right cause because they've had so much violence that they've grown up with that, even the older millennials didn't. And so, when you see that generation coming into the age of live entertainment, how are we going to get them to come out and feel safe at live events? And what kind of messaging are we going to have to do to get them to leave the safety and security of their home and get into a big arena somewhere? Are we going to see smaller venues? I mean, how are we going to have to adapt for that group?
And that is $1 million question. I think first and foremost, I remember when I was kind of that age, when I was in high school and college, and if I hear an ad on that says security strictly enforced, I wouldn't go because it was like, I don't want to go anywhere where they got to have all that security. I guess, what are they trying to keep out? And nowadays, it's the exact opposite. I need to hear security strictly enforced. I only go to NFL games now. I love going to NFL games because they're so strict. The clear bag policy, the pat downs, and all of that stuff. And so, unfortunately, it is the OVG group right now are kind of on the forefront of the security and what they're trying to do in terms of being security, event security, and what it's going to take in order to create that environment. And unfortunately, there are crazies out there, and it's not going to have an answer. But I think the $1 million question here is, how or what can you do to craft that message in order to allow for this Gen Z that is basically being kind of raised in a culture of fear to adopt this ability to say that it's okay to come to your venue or your event. And unfortunately, I think that's where activism is going to have to be harnessed. I think that venues are going to have to take on a voice of activism to talk to them, to say that don't be afraid. Let's not let terrorism win. Let's not let the crazy person win. We have to do that. And that's kind of contrarian to what everybody says, that, a venue or event can't have a personality or can't have a voice. And I would argue that you're going to have to change it to talk to that generation. Unfortunately for Gen Z hasn't figured out Gen Z yet. So I don't think that there's not any clear-cut dialogue or clear-cut strategy that's going to work with them. But I do believe that that's going to be my version or my mom's version of the 70s, where that activism was so high. And for me to support you, I need to know that you support what I believe. And I think that venues, events are going to have to come out and for the first time, and for some places ever, lay out their belief structure.
Yeah,
and
that's incredibly
going to
true.
kind of let people from behind the curtain. When I'm looking at, I look at Twitter and Instagram every day, and it's a boycott a day because somebody sponsors this or supports that or this.
Right.
So it's going to become a time now where your core beliefs of ownership or management are going to be put on the table and your core beliefs are going to have to kind of be transcended through the event, where your event now is going to have a voice and a personality. And what that voice is and what that personality is going to be for each individual event. But unfortunately, I don't think that you can no longer say, we got 4 walls, a roof, and a great sound system. Come out and check us out. It's going to be, we got 4 walls, a great roof, and a sound system, and we don't tolerate X, 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 and X, but we accept X, 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 and X. And you're going to have to put your emotions out there. And that's unfortunate, because I kind of like it when you kind of just say that, hey, we are this monotone event that comes along and provides something that you need. We don't have to have a personality, but I think with that generation, you're going to have to.
Yeah, and maybe even more benefit, where we have events that benefit cause-based events, those types of things. I feel like that's going to really speak to that group. In fact, my oldest daughter is in Tucson and decided, because apparently I dropped her on her head, that she wants to promote events. I was, no offense to promoters on the phone, but I was like, oh, girl. But she's doing this little festival down in Tucson called Benefest, and the whole thing is benefiting multiple causes, right? And that was where she started. She started with, what are we going to benefit? And then she added artists and entertainment to it after that. And didn't think about it till right now that may be a great model to get these kids out of the house, to get that next generation out of the house, to motivate them, that they're going to the event is beyond just entertaining, because they can do that at home to some degree, and they can feel safe. But if there's a cause that they feel strong about, or they're connected to a particular venue or a team because of what they're standing for, I don't think that's going to go away. A lot of people do not like that, and we wish it was kind of just, autonomous or something. But I think the wise people pay attention to what's going on and, make those adjustments instead of fighting it.
At the end of the day, art is a reflection of life, and if you don't recognize that or don't harness that, that's why singers sing songs. That's how you look at it this way. If you want your event to stay relevant, you look at half the artists out there that are still relevant today. That you're like, how are they hanging on? You can name your names, but they stay relevant because they adopt and adapt these different philosophy ideals that attract people that are similar. And that's what brands do right now. You look at, heck, Popeye's Chicken just sold out of all these chicken sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
And they created this phenomenon because, people love competition and the ability to compare, and they harness a lot of that stuff. And, people don't realize that, Popeye's Chicken and Tim Hortons are kind of like the same company. They're owned by the same people, but the power of branding basically correlated with a lot of people's impulse and created a frenzy. And so I think that events are going to have to figure out ways to start to harness that and create a branding mantra that, once again, harnesses emotions now, not just, an act, but it's going to be an emotional thing. People have to say, I want to go support them because I know that they support people like me. And it's good. It's the modern day deal.
If art does reflect life, which it does, I think venue managers, promoters, sometimes we try to flip that around, and we try to get it backwards, rather than just saying, hey, this is an expression of what's going on. We try to create an experience that will reflect. It's just backwards. So,
100% agree.
That's it, and back to, a little bit on the baseball. I was at Wrigley Field this summer and paying attention to your fans. The Chicago Cubs fans are like the Boston Red Sox fans. They're just a different kind of fan. They're there for the baseball, and that's pretty much all that happens the whole time you're at Wrigley Field. There's not a bunch of flashing lights. They don't do like the little hot dog mustard ketchup races. They're not shooting T-shirts into the fans. Because I think the Wrigley fans at this point would be like, can you get out of the way? We're trying to watch the game, and we're going to sing when they win and all that kind of stuff. But you go to some other parks where you don't have that fan base of 100 years or however long, and what they've done there in Chicago to build that fan base year after year. Then if you don't have hot dog, ketchup, mustard races, nobody's showing up at your park, so you got to pay attention. And those are just different demographics completely. And
Well, I will argue though. I will argue though that Chicago, St. Louis, Boston, those nostalgic baseball towns, and I've had a chance to visit all those parks and kind of meet those people. The
mhm.
thing that they did harness though is if you go and look at every development around said facility, right? They had a hand in kind of hand picking what's going there
That's
and what's
true.
going on. Because what
Yeah.
they're doing, and it goes back to the original point, expanding that front porch. So I'm not a
Mm.
baseball connoisseur. However, when I'm in Wrigleyville, which is the area that surrounds Wrigley Park, I have a great time without even going. I go to the rooftop and watch the game. I kind of have some adult beverages with my friends, and
Yeah.
we do that quirky stuff. It's the same thing as the Super Bowl, the NBA All-Star game, NHL game. I'm not a hockey fan, but I love the experience. And when I go to St. Louis and we go to Cardinal Stadium and you go to Ballpark Village, I'm not a ballpark. I mean, I'm not a baseball fan, but I love going to Ballpark Village. Same thing they just did in SunTrust Park in Atlanta. They built a
That's true.
phenomenal
Phenomenal
environment
there.
around it
Hmm.
to create a front porch unlike any other. So that baseball, people will say, oh, they're declining in attendance, and once again, I think that we're so married to the wrong metrics that is causing us to miss the bigger picture. Like for me, I would rather look at engagement and engagement versus dollar earned versus ticket versus dollar earned. And if I can look at my engagement versus dollar earned, it gives me a total different metric than if I look at ticket and dollar earned. And so, and without getting into all the KPIs that I like to look at to try to say if you're
Right.
healthy or not,
I was just going to
but
ask you, but
that is
that's
one of those things.
yeah.
No, yeah, but it's critical though, because like you look at all these KPIs and people saying, well, how many tickets did you sell? How many tickets are you selling? And I would go back and I sit down and say, no, how many people came into contact with your product? Let's look at that first. Whether
Hmm.
through social media engagement, whether it be through database engagement, whether it be through a third-party partnership with a partner, your radio broadcast partner, TV radio broadcast, partner, whatever you may be. But you need to be able to have a snapshot of what your total engagement is, and then let that be a reflection of your revenue. Because sometimes your revenue goes, I mean, your ticket base can go down, but your revenue increase, and it's sometimes not as a result of just raising your ticket prices, just being savvy and understanding where your audience is, and understanding price points and where they're trying to engage with you at. And so, like a lot of these teams now are getting to the subscription business, because the reason that they're getting into the subscription business is their engagement is at an all-time high. It's just they're not selling a ton of season tickets or group tickets. So they say, hey, we have such high engagement but low turnout. What can we do to once again reduce that barrier? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to, I mean, candidly, I own a lot of partial plans, but I don't live in one place long enough, or I'm never at home enough to engage in a full season ticket. So for me, my barrier is commitment, right? That's a big
Oh yeah.
barrier for me.
Yeah.
But if you can give a person like me some flexibility, I'm all of a sudden engaged. And these subscription models that the Oakland A's kind of coined it and started, and everybody's taken off with it, is the route to go. I mean, and I look at that, and people, will always argue, well, you're giving it away. The long-term fans who've been here are getting mad because these people can fill their seats. But once again, what those long-term fans are buying is commitment. They're not buying that seat. They're buying the commitment that I got the exact same experience every time I show up. What these subscription fans are buying now is I'm buying the ability to be flexible. So you're really selling two totally different products: flexibility, commitment. Consistency versus inconsistent. You're selling two
Right.
different products, and if you start to shape it that way, you now understand that you're opening up a new revenue stream and an opportunity to do some things that you really don't have to invest a lot of time, energy, and effort. But it's a byproduct of looking at this from an engagement standpoint. How can I take advantage of all the people that like us on social media? That's a question you got to ask, because it's like, how can you monetize that? You can't. But what you can do is try to create an opportunity for those people that I follow you on everything. I follow you on Twitter. I follow you on Instagram. I follow you on Facebook. I follow you on LinkedIn. I got you on YouTube, but I don't own a season ticket. And
Yeah.
when you start to look at those disconnects, it's one of those things when it starts talking about like CRM. If you are trying to figure out who all your followers are in your CRM modules, Salesforce is kind of trying to do a module to help you with that, to really truly help you understand who's engaging with your product. And then when you start to understand that engagement, it then allows for you to send what I like to call a campaign to them that's specific to them. And so it's now I know it's a lot of extra work, and I get it and I understand it. But no, this is no longer Field of Dreams. We're not just, if you open the doors, they will come. It doesn't work that way anymore.
No, it really doesn't at all. And so you touched on CRM a little bit. And again, I think folks don't know how to sometimes get the right data to see who's engaging with them. You know, they're only looking at attendance and email lists, and they're just missing all that stuff you just talked about. And we're still just hearing session after session at all of our industry conferences about, you know, and they'll touch on CRM, but they're really still just talking about what I'm doing with the people that have attended something at my venue before or signed up on my list. You know, what else can they be doing to really know who's engaging with them, and what kind of tools
So
are affordable that you know kind of scale out to people that you like, that you've seen, so that they can really see who's engaging with them.
I've seen people do magic with Excel and Google Docs, and I've seen people do magic with Salesforce. And I think
Right.
either one works. It really
Right.
what works for your budget.
Right.
There are tools within Excel that allow for you to build your own database that works. The problem
It's
with
true.
Excel is you just got to be committed to it, and you got to make sure that one person doesn't own the file. But then that's why I prefer Google Docs when it's something to get done on a cheap. But in terms of database and cloud-based database, you know, Salesforce is kind of, to me, the king of the kings. TQM is another one, but Salesforce, to me, Artix is okay, but I don't really deal with them a lot. That's the enemy. But I do like Salesforce and their ability to create APIs and what they're doing. It is an expensive product. I don't want to sugarcoat that, but it's something that works. But Google Docs is a close second. And what I encourage people to do once or twice. One, it's called social surfing. I don't know if that I just made that up. Somebody else probably said it, but what if you have
Right.
a hashtag associated with anything that you do, and if you're not surfing that hashtag to look for unique people that engage with you on social media, and respond to them and get their information and sell through them. I give sales training all the time, and I ask the people, if you didn't have a phone or an email list, how would you find your customers? And the two things that the two answers I look for would be, one, I will walk around to those people that come in contact with our building each day, or I will go on to a social media site and look for people that like us and then try to go that route. Because at the end of the day, when you're building a database, you got to go one person at a time. There's no, you know, people are just, you know, the problem that you have now with millennials, specifically with millennials and Gen Z, is they've gotten savvy to all the tactics that we used to do to grip their information. They've got
Right.
now they figured out also the old cheat we used to have of, you know, geolocating on your phone. I turned mine off because I don't want you to be able to track me. And people are now figuring out ways to turn that off, and so you can't get that same data anymore. But one thing that, you know, that leaves a undeniable imprint is going to be a like, an engagement, a comment, a quote, a follow, whatever. You gotta have someone on your team that's surfing that type of stuff to try to figure out what those fans are. And I think that that's one of the lost arts, and it's probably the next wave. Yes, it's going to be a lot of work, but once again,
Right.
you're now fishing with fish are. It's not like you saying, hey, go to the mall and find me this one fan. Now you can say, I can look at the mall and look for a person that has used said hashtag while buying our gear at the mall. Hey, repping X team, or hey, I love this event. And they're using that to their advantage in order to identify, want, and engage with a fan. So those are new tactics that I think people are going to have to start using. It's one of the things that I try to train people on using all the time in order to try to find that new demographic without having to spend a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, political campaigns are won and lost on social media, you know, and you look at the whole
Yeah,
Popeyes thing, right? Some folks that if they're not tuned into social media have no idea what you're talking about because there's no billboards, you know. Why are you talking about Popeyes chicken? You know, well, go check your Twitter
right.
feed, you know. um,
Well, it's a new wave, and
yeah,
now Popeyes has everybody. Popeyes can now take that same hashtag in their campaign, and there are services out there. Some are a little shiesty that can identify those people and then
yep,
and populate into them, and then turn around and serve them your ad. I mean, you can buy Instagram. You can buy Instagram ads now for like $50, but
yep.
it pretty much targeted people who've used that campaign or engaged with you in such a way that's going to allow for you to get more data, more engagement out of that person. And so I think that once again, we are now the buckshot mentality of just mass media. And this right here is kind of one of those things everybody talks about. It's going to become a rifleman's game versus a shotgun game. Everybody should understand that. If not, you might want to, go brush up on on that concept. But this is just another way to refine that rifle shot. And I know I hate to use rifle shot in this context, and not because just start talking about mass shootings and whatnot and security issues, but I'm using it as a point of reference here, or as an ideal. So that is one of the ways that I would say that people can strengthen their CRM tools going down the line.
Yep. I love it. Well, we've already kind of hit on tech, 5G, all that kind of stuff, and we're getting up close to the top of the hour. What do you have your eye on that we haven't talked about? I think making your front porch bigger and getting rid of those barriers are two really genius things. But coming up in live entertainment in the next, 5 years, where do you see the barriers that we're going to have to address, or do we not know yet?
I don't think we know them all, but one of the things that I'm keeping my eye on, and I think that is going to become the wave of the future, is what I like to call culture collision, fusion, whatever people want to use. The culinary artists or chefs or whatever term you want to use, they've been ahead of this curve for a while. You got Mexican Asian, you got Creole French, and you got all these things. I think events are going to have to start to do this. One of the things that I tell our clients all the time is, hey, you got to figure out a way to combine pickles and peanut butter and make it taste good. And that is going to be the way, because once again, it's all about expanding this front porch. So, for example, one of the things that we did at one of our football games back at the Memphis Express is we hosted a silent disco during the game. So people are like, what? They're not focused on the game. And I was like, but that's not the point. I'm trying to get a different demographic to come to the game and come to the turnstile to experience this experience. And oh, by the way, there's a football game. So we literally the silent disco where you have we have 5 DJs set up on platforms. They had the headphones on, and we had everybody in one of the end zones, and they would just have their deals on. We have 5 different DJs playing 5 different songs, 5 different genres of music. So you have people doing line dancing. They were doing the hip hop dance. And then we had a game broadcast. So they had a totally different experience than the person that was sitting up in the suite with their all-you-can-eat food. And that, I think, that type of, so people were always saying, you should never distract from the football game. And I say, why not? So I think culture, collision is going to be one of those things. I think art and entertainment is going to kind of start to merge a little bit more. I've been looking at, so I went to this, what is the name of this? It's Obscura. There's 2 companies I saw recently. Team Lab. They're out of Tokyo, and then their competitor is Obscura out of the Bay Area. So Team Lab and Obscura, what they have the ability to do is this. They are basically architects, artists, and so what they're doing is taking this like a digital art museum, right? And they're creating these digital art spaces in concourses. You've seen them when you ride by a building. You see this building kind of have these, but what they've created the ability to do is now bring it indoors, right? And so and there are cheap ways to do this. One of the things that we were going to do with the Express is we were going to have a digital art display where during our games, all these artists are going to have these digital expressions all around the building. So not only was it going to be a football game, but it was also going to be an art exhibit. And so I was doing this. I was doing research. I came across these Team Lab and Obscura because these are companies that can do this. But what they can do is awesome. And they basically, they're looking for places to tour their exhibits. And so just think about this. Like, if you can say, okay, we're going to have a country show, but yet we're going to have this alternative art scenario that just basically lines our concourse where we make this dark, dim event that you walk through and it's immersive and you have all these lights and everything going on. You're creating a culture collision where I don't like country music, but that sounds cool. Or I like country music. Oh, and look at this right here. And or I don't like the rodeo, but that sounds cool. And so you start to look at those things, and I think that promoters, they're going to have to start to think outside of their wheelhouse to attract that, once again, that new person to, one, sell a ticket to in some shape, form, or fashion, but 2, expand that front porch so you can increase your engagement. And if you get those people there, it's no longer going to be free food or free food before 5 or half price concessions or those things. The Groupon kind of single-handedly killed that with the whole, let me give something free. So now it's going to be, how can I create an Instagrammable moment or a storytelling moment or whatever to allow for these people to go and then brag about your event. And so I always live by this adage of one tells seven, one tells 14. For every good experience you have, you're going to go tell 7 people. For every bad experience you have, you're going to go tell 14. I'm a slow guy from Mississippi, but I know I would rather gain 7 than lose 14 any day
Yeah,
of the week.
absolutely. 100%. Good spot to wrap up. I looking if we have any questions, you guys can type them in here. One thing that, and I'll read them off to you, but I just see that we had a comment of, and it's back a ways that I missed about some other airports that all have dog relief areas. So that's probably going to become more of a common, and we'll start to see that in our venues, and something that with young moms out there, there's a company now that puts these stations where you can breastfeed your kid in public. So stadiums are starting to put those in because that's an issue for young moms don't want to be stuck at home missing out on the live events and missing out on the fun. And so we have to address that and give them a comfortable place to do that. And I've seen women struggle at airports. So I mean, that again is a generational shift in our mind, and we've got to get there and get there pretty quick. So look, man, this was phenomenally valuable, and we're going to be sharing this all over, and we'll have a ton of we post this forever. So whoever watches live gets in on the fun a little bit, but we did record, so we will be sharing this out and getting a lot of viewership from this. It was phenomenal. As usual, bunch of Kosha catchphrases. So we're going to try, Taylor and I are going to try to put some of this together and recap this in a little blog post as well, so we can, we'll make sure to put quotes around your stuff. But awesome, awesome stuff. And the world is lucky to have you a step ahead of everybody. People will do well to listen. What conferences are you going to be at coming up ahead?
I don't know yet. I think I'm not speaking anywhere anytime soon. I am in the process now of actually transitioning to the Colorado area, so we'll talk about that offline. And
okay,
and yeah, trying to start a new beginning here, and then we're going to just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Are you going to be at, let's see, OVG is putting on their conference in New York, I think, in a couple weeks. You going to be there?
I'm going to try. I actually am going to try to be in New York in a couple of weeks, but I'm actually going to be there for a different deal, and I'm actually trying to sneak in again, and so hopefully they don't catch me without my badge. although I'm going to try it now because they are a security company, and they pride themselves on having big
I
security.
know,
I'm going to see if I can walk through. I'm going to see if I can walk through without my badge. But no, my plan is to try to make that one, Billboard, and a couple of others that I think are coming up down the line.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you. I don't want to tell you what event, but my husband just went to a major event, and the lines were long getting in, and he and his buddy just literally knocked on one of the doors and they walked right in. And no bag check, no scan, nothing.
It's still amazing how
oh my God,
secure we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
This I will leave with this point, and this is my new focus, and after doing consulting and now seeing all these buildings, venues invest so much money in a lot of top line things, infrastructure, Wi-Fi, and all this. But they turn around and pay the security guards and ushers the least amount of money.
Oh my God.
And to me, those are the first lines of defense. And so if you're out there and you're a venue provider in some shape, form, or fashion, or you're a promoter in some shape, form, or fashion, let's try to take care of those people. I mean, you look at, and I hate to use the Parkland kids, or I hate to use the Las Vegas incident and whatnot, but the people that were the first line of defense were those people that are getting paid sometimes minimum wage to be out there, risk their lives, even though they don't think they're risking their lives at the time, they are.
Right.
So my PSA for the day is, please take care of those people who are supposed to be taking care of you.
Perfect. I love it. Awesome spending an hour with you, hour and a half with our sound check. Great to see you again.
Anytime.
I wish you the best, and thank you so much. We'll be in touch, and maybe we'll see you in New York.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.